Welcome, one and all, to the February 2nd, 2024 episode of Signals from Mars. I am Victor. He is Jeremy. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, Victor?
I am doing good myself. This time around, Jeremy is back for one of our new music discussions where we recap the music that has come out the previous month. This time, we're going to be talking about January 2024. And man, January usually starts out as a slow month for music, but there were quite a few new releases that came out this month. I think the only week where there wasn't a lot going on was the first week, January 5th.
Hmm.
And man, I'm just realizing that I missed out on a big release that I wanted to listen to. That my son brought up, which wasn't I forgot when it came out, but it was in January. We don't Neither one of us listed it. It was the Riley's LA Guns album. Which
Yes, you're right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
both missed on that one. Maybe we should. We'll have a listen and we'll give our verdict on it in February.
There you go. So anyway, on January 5th, you listed two albums that you listened to. I kind of glossed over these. I didn't have enough time to really listen to either one. Um, but I'll let you be the one that discusses January 5th.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's a very slow start to the year sometimes, and this was no different. You know, January the 5th, there weren't many really that were out, and I was probably forcing the issue a little bit. But I listened to "Beautiful Illusion" by Last World. I thought it was it's a melodic sort of AOR style rock album, sort of thing that would probably accompany a film. It all starts off, a little bit bland, to be honest, but it does improve. There's some hard hitters on there, a few good songs like "I Will Find My Way," "A Step Beyond Death," and there was a sort of rocky number, "Better of Me," which I quite enjoyed. There was a bit of a low production budget on it, but it was okay. It was listenable. But my pick of the week was an album called "Darkness" by the Odd Even on Eclipse Records. It was a fairly sort of down-tuned hard rock act. They are a down-tuned hard rock act from Baltimore, and it's sort of, I would say, it was definitely for the Zakk Wylde fans. They sort of sort of riff heavy, grunge influenced alt metal, that sort of stuff. Good songs, a decent vocalist too, Chris Foltz, and I thought the production was right on it as well. They've been going since 2020, and it was that was a pretty decent, good start to the year. So a surprising hit from the off. Give it a listen. I think you'll probably like it, Victor.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I listened to a little bit of it, and I think you're probably right with the Zakk Wylde comparison. It reminded me of a little bit of John Petrucci from Dream Theater as well, with some of the down-tuned playing also. I'll give that one an extended listen. I Like I said, it isn't that I didn't want to listen to it, I just ran out of time. Okay, so January 12th, we start to pick things up again, and we have new releases from Magnum, Emil Bulls, Russell Guns, Jim Petrick, and World Stage, the Grandmaster, Ryujin, I guess that's pronounced, Exit Eden. We had EPs from Greg Puciato, um, Alluvial, Escuela Grind. And yeah, those are the main albums that came out. And look, these aren't all the albums that came out. There's a lot of other stuff that came out. These are just kind of the ones that stood out to us. We got a chance to listen to a lot of these. Jeremy, what are some of your picks for the 12th?
Yeah, I mean, this week I delved into Black Sun by the Grandmaster. That was a Frontiers album. Very sort of pleasant power metal stuff, strong production again, soaring vocals, the sort of thing you're going to get. So quite enjoyed that. I thought Soul Sacrifice had all these sort of elements of a very commercial piece of metal. And there were some other, good, nice listens on it as well. I listened to Medusa by Jack Russell and Tracy Guns. I liked a few songs on this, but it seemed to lack something. I couldn't put my finger on it. I played it a couple of times. It didn't persuade me to, play it a third time. So I don't know what it was. Maybe you'll chip in on that one in a minute, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and put me right on that. I don't know what it was. But I suppose there's no surprise that the week belonged to the Birmingham Pomp rock stalwarts magnum for me. It wasn't really so much the album Here Comes the Rain, which was released. It's their 23rd studio release, I believe. So they've released a lot of albums. Unfortunately, it was released in the week that the chief songwriter and guitarist Tony Clarkin died at the age of 77, which was very sad. I've seen them a lot over the years, and I gave this album a good listen. I felt the quality has dropped off quite a bit in the last few years, but they're aging guys. But there were some good songs on there, and I liked the song After the Silence. I liked the closing song Borderline, which I thought highlighted Clarkin's obsession with war themes, which sort of resonated throughout many of their albums over the years. So there's a lot there that I'm sort of giving it the album of the week because of because Clarkin has passed away. But there you go, Magnum is my album of the week.
Okay. The Russell Guns, absolutely. I got to listen to that. I'm a huge Tracy Guns fan. I think that this album, similar to what you said, there's a few really cool tracks on it. And there's a lot that just does nothing for me, because when they go back to the 70s Hammond organ thing, it's boring to me. I have every LA Guns release. As much as I like Hollywood Vampires, it has very little distortion, and it doesn't put Tracy's skills on display the way that they could be, or the way that I like them to be. And I think that the songs where the distortion is kicked up and the keyboards are kind of brought to the back end of the track, or pushed to the background, kind of, are the ones where they shine, because Tracy and Jack Russell are the stars. I don't know who the keyboard player is. He shouldn't be who I'm hearing over top of these two monster legendary artists. And some of those songs, it just feels like they're foisted on us with, okay, well, we're going to give you a 70s feel, but there's really kind of nothing kind of organic about it in places. The album isn't bad, but and when they're cooking, when it's good, it's really good. But like you're saying, it's missing something for a lot of the album. My pick for this week is a German band, Emil Bulls, with Love Will Fix It. It is a band that I've been hearing about for a long time, but I've never really checked them out. And there was a single that I posted, which not a lot of people liked on Patreon, but I really liked the chorus because I thought it was melodic and it got stuck in my head. And there's a few. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is, the greatest thing since sliced bread, but there's some pretty cool tracks on this album. And because it's, something different, and I like talking about different things when it comes to music, if it helps some people check it out, and whether that means that they check it out and say, oh, you're crazy, or wow, yeah, there are a few really cool songs off of this, then I think I've done my work. So that's why I'm going to go with the Emil Bulls album. Trying to look at what else I listened to here. I listened to the Greg Puciato EP, and it was cool. I mean, it's what you could expect from Greg. It's eclectic. So anyway, moving on to January 19th, we had probably the biggest release of the week, and probably the biggest release of January is the new Green Day album, Saviors. We had new albums from Saxon, Hellfire, and Damnation, The Rods with Rattle the Cage, also Godis, Metalife, Cobra Kill, Sovereign, Grand, Abora, Lord Dying, reissue from Touche Amore, and compilations from Nick Oliveri. There's Nick Oliveri hits at all. Volume 8 and 9 were released. We both got to listen to a bunch of different albums here. Jeremy, what are some of your picks for this week, for the 19th?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Serpent's Kiss by Cobra Kill, and I listened to Expedition 1 by Metalite. Both of those were okay. They were fine albums. They were listenable, the sort of thing you put on in the background. They're not necessarily an album I would play again and again, but, they were quite enjoyable. And so, I'd recommend anyone to pick them up and listen to them. I've moved on to Rattle the Cage, the Rods album. There's something about this. I mean, I remember them obviously from back in the day. So I think that sort of, made me listen to them. And, I don't know what it was. It's fairly simple rock and roll, which works. And I did play this several times, and I thought, there's some songs on here that are really annoying me, and yet I'm listening to them again and again. What is going on? It's one of those albums that it's almost like an Anvil album.
Right.
You know that it's a little bit tongue in cheek. It's a little bit raw. It's a little bit old fashioned. It's a little bit this. It's a little bit that. And yet, you're singing along to the choruses, and you're kind of enjoying it. And sometimes you just think, well, metal albums are supposed to be fun, and this was a fun listen. And so I thought, good on them. They've done something that made me listen to them, and that's all they needed to do. So I like that, but it wasn't my pick of the week. And of course, there's no surprises that it's going to be Hellfire and Damnation, the Barnsley Stormtroopers, the Barnstormers, Saxon. I got this one on red vinyl. I played it a lot. It's their 24th studio album since 1979. And it's, in my opinion, it sort of continues a good run of form that they've had in recent years. They've never produced an album that you would say is absolutely amazing, 10 out of 10. But I think they keep the sort of level up. It's a 7 or an 8 out of 10 every time, and there's always good songs on there to listen to. This time, of course, we got Brian Tatler of Diamond Head helping them out, who seems to be sort of like a full-time member now. And I think it's better for that too. I think it's, he's got good tunes, nice riffs, good lyrics, all these historical themes. I know there were some people in the chat group, the Patreon group, who thought, they didn't like the lyrics, and they thought the songs were okay-ish. But, turn it up, play it loud. It's Saxon, for God's sake. It's great. It's new album.
Yeah, that's interesting because with last week's show, a few people mentioned that, but Brad was 100% behind the album and actually felt that it's probably their best album that they've released in some time. Would you feel that it's their most cohesive album in comparison to the last few?
I think it's better than the last two. I think the best album they've released in their sort of recent run of form has been Sacrifice. But the production on Sacrifice was far too in your face. It's very overproduced. This one, I think they've got the production right. And I think it's a nice balance of songs. It's short and sweet. There's probably only about 9 tracks on there, really, if you take out, the opener, which is just, a minute long or a couple of minutes or whatever. And I think that they have a nice sort of balance of themes and balance of their, it's kind of like a sort of potpourri of Saxon over the years. They do the same sort of stuff. They do stuff about history. They do stuff about transport. They do stuff about, those sort of things that Biff likes to write about. And the riffs are there, and they're good tunes that stay in your head. 1066 is a good song on there. So is Madame Guillotine. So is the one about Roswell. And it's just, it's a very enjoyable 7.5, 8 out of 10 album.
Yeah. To echo what you've said about the Rods and Saxon, I can't argue with either of the things that you mentioned. With the Rods, mentioning Anvil, I think is very apropos because it is that. You know what to expect from them. I'm not the hugest Saxon fan. But I do think that this album is a solid album. I was listening to it today, and for a Saxon album, I mean, I can't complain. I can think of contemporaries of theirs that are putting out worse music at the moment, stuff that would probably bore me a little more.
And the moral of this story is this is what not to do if your bird shits on you.
For example. So yeah, so kudos to them. I do want to point out the Green Day album, Saviors. I know it's a little bit off the beaten track for people that are in Patreon or listen to the podcast, but I do think that this is them kind of going full circle to what they were like in their early years. It's a lot closer to something like Dookie, with some of the political message that they've brought about over the years kind of mixed in. And yes, they've been a political band for some time. So any Yahoo that say, "Oh, stick to the music and forget about the political stuff," kind of been doing that for almost 30 years now. Anyway, so again, just to pick something off the beaten track and something that wasn't mentioned, I bring that up. Real quickly here, I do want to say hello to Tony, who is in the chat, who's saying hello to both Jeremy and myself. Also want to remind you guys that you can help the show out by going to Amazon. You have that Amazon link up there. I get a small kickback for you purchasing anything from that. That is the US store, the UK store, Canadian store. You can also go to Patreon. And you can also, this is, I guess, the buy me a coffee. What else do I have here? Well, you can go to signalsfrommars.com to check out all these links that I'm mentioning. And oh, by the way, Jeremy is wearing a few different items here. It's showing up backwards, actually, on my end. All right. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. So we've got the t-shirt. We have got the hoodie, which Jeremy is wearing. Got a windbreaker jacket. We've got a bomber jacket. We've got the Signals from Mars Jeremy cap. We've got the beanie. And we've got the Signals from Mars Brad bucket hat. So there you go. Anyone that so chooses to pick any one of these up, I gratefully appreciate you shipping in. And once again, you can go to signalsfrommars.com to check out any of these items. You can just go to merch. You can go to follow us on social media. You could watch replays of the live stream. You can go to any of the new value for value podcasting apps. And if you so choose to throw some crypto my way, you can do that as well. Ooh, Brad says he has something new to show off. So good thing it isn't the same old he has to show off. All right. Anyway, getting back to the discussion here, we moved things forward, and also January really only had 3 weeks of new releases. So moving on to the last week of new releases here, on January 26th, we had Static X with Project Regeneration Volume 2, Lucifer with Lucifer 5, Alkaline Trio, Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, New Model Army, the Gems, Dead Poet Society, Dimitri, Any Given Day, Hyris, Mega Colossal, Caligula's Horse, Kill the Thrill, live albums from Thunder. Oh, yeah, 2 live albums from Thunder. There's live at Islington. Am I saying that right?
Islington.
Islington Academy. And also live at Leeds. That one's a little easier for me. Whitechapel with Live in the Valley. And then compilations from Alcatraz and another various artists. Mesmerize, a tribute to Celtic Frost. Jeremy, what are some of the things that you listened to that came out on the 26th?
Yeah, it was a trickier week for me, this one, I think. I mean, I started out with a sort of brief dip into Live in the Valley by Whitechapel, and that's a shocker to you, I know. I couldn't stand the incessant growling, to be fair, but it was it was better when they did some proper singing. The song Hickory Creek was good, and it gave a good, powerful impression of what a Whitechapel gig is. So it was worthy of a listen. Not my favourite band. But Phoenix by the female trio The Gems was much better. Their sort of up-tempo, old-style rock and roll hit the spot really with me, despite the vocals being a little bit too forward in the mix, which can happen now and again. So I kind of like that. I also kind of enjoyed Limitless by a band called Any Given Day. I thought, again, this is a band that relied too much on growling, and there was a little bit of a sort of fairly generic style to it. But it was good. It was something you could put on while I was working for the week, and that was okay. My album of the week is one of those live albums by Thunder. I didn't listen to both because, for obvious reasons, I thought that maybe the set list would be pretty similar, and I'm guessing that people were just going to buy the one that they went to in that year, or that I listened to the one live at Leeds. Obviously, it was up north, and I nearly went to the gig actually in 2015. And so, the reason why I gave this the album of the week, because I don't normally do it for a live album.
Right.
It's a real sort of true reflection of a Thunder gig. I mean, I've been to several of them, and it's a band that actually plays live. Now, just listen to what I just said then. A band that actually plays live.
What a shock.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're getting on that, and it's brilliant. It sounds a little tinnier. It sounds as if the band has separate instruments. That the only instruments they're playing are the ones that are in front of them. It's great. That's what a band should sound like. It's fantastic, and it goes through showcases all the sort of catalogue of the band, and Thunder have got some great songs, and there isn't a filler amongst it. So yeah, worthy album of the week for me. Maybe I'll even purchase it one day. I've got a lot of Thunder albums already.
There you go. I listen to a lot of different things. I listen to the Static X, which is a combination of a compilation and some new stuff thrown in there as well, some unreleased stuff. Listen to the Lucifer 5 album, which is along the lines of what you could expect from a Lucifer album. It is a throwback to a 70s feel. There is some 80s influence thrown in there as well. The Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, which is kind of all over the place. Some of the things on there sounds like Queens of the Stone Age. Some of it is very radio friendly as well. Some ballady also. Dead Poet Society's new album, Fission, is kind of borders or saddles kind of pop radio friendly rock, at times royal bloodish. And I mean, it's an okay album. Caligula's Horse is a band that I reviewed way back when. They're on Inside Out Records, which is which is a label which is known to put out progressive stuff. And yeah, this is kind of a mix between prog metal and some sludgy, doomy metal. And the last thing that I checked out was Mega Colossus. The album is Showdown. It is on, if you pronounce it in Spanish, it is Cruz del Sur, which is Southern Cross. And very, very, very thrash influenced, very new wave of British heavy metal influenced. It was a really cool album because it was like mixing Rust in Peace, Rust in Peace, Megadeth with Iron Maiden,
Oh,
and it was an interesting mix. They're not reinventing anything, but it is a cool album to listen to. This is a hard pick for me because I really enjoyed the Lucifer album as well, because I think that they've kind of turned it up a notch. And the interesting thing is that I don't know if she's still with the guy from the Helicopters, because I haven't seen him featured in any of the images. But it seems as if they've kind of, like I said, it seems like it's still a retro sound, but they've kind of moved it forward another decade. So, for me, it's kind of going to be a tie between the Lucifer and the Mega Colossus album. So I'd
oh,
recommend
a,
checking
t-
out both of them.
a tie. We've never had a tie. I'm sure
We've
we've
never
never.
had a tie, but we've had a week where we've had no picks. So I
We
figured,
have.
why
We
not? We kind of set these rules as we go as well. So we're 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 kids playing in the park saying next goal wins. So there's that. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, listen, me and Jeremy have been doing this for a year now. There is no excuse for you guys at the end of the year now, because on the homepage, I have these episodes separated from the other episodes. You have all the newest episodes together, then you have interviews, then you have just straight up music discussions, and then you have our monthly album reviews. So when it comes to the end of the year, and if any of you says, I didn't really get to listen to anything. Well, when it when you get to October, November, start listening back to these episodes and saying, what did I miss out on? What? Oh yeah, wow. Okay, so Jeremy has recommended this album from the Odd Even. What's that album all about? Let me check it out. What's that Magnum album all about? How about that Saxon album? What about that Thunder live album? I like Thunder, but I'm not sure if I really, really like them. Oh, wow. This live album is really what I needed by the band. It's got everything that I love by them, and it's introduced me to some additional stuff. So, guys, we do these episodes for you to check music out, new and old. We kind of mix things up there and give you kind of a cross section of different things to check out. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. We do have some other topics to talk about as well. So we don't want to leave you guys here just at the 30-minute mark. There are a few other things that we can discuss. The first thing that Jeremy, you brought up, or you brought to my attention, is the whole thing with Ozzy doing 2 more shows,
Hmm.
which is what Sharon has said. What are your thoughts on this?
Hmm. Yeah, so 2 shows at Villa Park, Aston Villa's home ground, apparently. We don't know when yet, but we would imagine it's going to be over in the summertime, because it's going to be outdoors and on the pitch. I think it's well, it's his way of saying farewell. Apparently,
Mhm.
obviously he's always wanted to play live, and he's been unable to because he's been so unwell. And he doesn't really want to tour either. So to do a couple of shows in Birmingham, he can settle around there for a while before he does the 2 shows. There'll probably be one day after the other, or there might be a day in between, I guess, for a rest day. I mean, he's not a well man, let's put it that way. We know what we're going to get with it. There's going to be a lot of help. He's going to be helped to stand up in some way. His voice is going to be helped a lot. But it's the last chance we're ever going to see Ozzy live, and I'm
Right.
tempted to go myself because it's not too far away from me. And getting a ticket should be okay because there's 40,000 at 50,000 each night. So yeah, should be able to get there. There'll be a good bill. He'll probably put on some good support acts as well. He wants to do it. Obviously, Sharon wants him to do it. I also think that there's a good chance that Tony Iommi's going to turn up because it's also his home patch, Aston Villa.
Right.
You may even see Geezer Butler turning up. You never know, but definitely Tony, because we know Tony's played live with him recently. They've done a bit of Black Sabbath together. So there's no reason why they wouldn't want to do it again. Just maybe come on for a couple of songs near the end, play Paranoid, play another one, and that's it. Nice hug at the end, sign off. And I think Tony would really appreciate that as well. Because he's never played really at Villa Park, which again, as I say, is where they're from. It's their home. So in many respects, I know what I'm going to get with this. I think it's going to be. I wouldn't say it's not going to be a car crash at all. I think it's going to be very much helped. It's going to be a slightly artificial show, but it's going to be okay. He'll get a good band, and I'm very much in favour of it overall. I think.
Ow! 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 With that in mind, because that's the intro to Bark at the Moon from a bootleg from Japan that I have. Do they invite Jakey Lee to play with him?
Well, is that a rhetorical question, or
I'm asking you. Do you
asking me.
think that happens? Do we see and asking the people in the chat? Do we see Jakey Lee play with Ozzy during his final 2 shows?
Well, it's a good question, isn't it? I mean, we've seen many of these bands before and artists who, they play their final shows and whether they invite people back. I mean, the Scorpions have been on their final shows now for a long time. They're not really final, but they did invite back Uli John Roth to play with them. So, it's always possible. Whoever Ozzy gets on with, whoever Sharon can probably pay half the price that she wants to pay for them. And they accept it because they want to play in the last show, it's going to happen. So there could be a few guest appearances. This is what I'm saying. I think there's a very high chance of Tony playing.
Yeah.
Whether there's anyone else, we shall see. But yeah, it's possible. And will it be all the better for it? It will be, won't it? The more stars are out there and the more his old band members are there, the better, really.
Okay, so let me throw this out to you this way. I'm going to name people and you're going to give me from 1 to 5 probability of them being on either one of these final 2 shows. Tony Iommi.
Tony Iommi, I think, is a 5. I think it's almost certain he'll be there.
Okay, Geezer Butler.
I think that's more of a 2 or 3, because I'm not sure whether Geezer actually wants to play live anymore himself.
Okay. Bill Ward.
Ooh. Well, they are friends, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Oh, I can't answer that one. I'm going to have to go plump down the middle and say maybe a 3, maybe a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Slash.
Well, Slash as a guest appearance could, I mean, he would do it. He's
played with them in the past.
Yeah, you would say it's a 4 if he's asked. Yeah.
Okay. Gus G.
Gus G does play over here in the UK. Whether he wants to, yeah, that's a 3. You would say that's a 3.
Okay. Oh shit, I forgot his name now, and I was thinking of it a second ago. I was about to say Bobby Rondinelli, but that's not right. Bass player of the first two Ozzy, no, bass player of a bunch of different Ozzy albums and lyric writer. I can see him in my head as well. Blizzard of Oz.
Of course, we don't know who's actually going to be in the band on the day as well. That's the other thing.
Right. That's
Are we,
well.
are we
We're,
assuming
we're
Zach Wilde's going to
Bob
be?
Bob Daisley.
Oh, Bob Daisley. Is
Bob.
Bob Daisley still actually playing anything? Is he?
Yeah, but he's in Australia.
He's in Australia. I think that's a low one. I don't know. I mean, there was some falling out, wasn't there? And
yeah.
I'd say that's a 2.
Okay.
Hmm.
Rudy Sarzo.
Oh, Rudy Sarzo. That's a good question. We'll have to go down the middle for that one. We'll say that's a 3.
Tommy Aldridge.
Well, Tommy Aldridge would be a high probability. We know Tommy plays around a bit with a lot of bands, and he loves playing. I think that's a higher one. I'd go for a 4.
Okay. Here's one that a lot of people don't remember were in his band. Dean Castronovo.
Yeah. Are they going to have time to play all these songs? No, I think Dean said no. He's got other things on. He's not interested. So we're going to go. Go on.
I wonder if Dean can leave the country.
Yeah, that's another one. Point. That's a good point. We're going to have to put him down as a 1 there.
Okay. Joe Holmes.
Joe Holmes. Surely that's a 1. What do you think?
Yeah, well,
you're asking me.
we've been waiting for the longest time for him to release a solo album for like 2 years now, and all the clips that we've heard have sounded great. His Pharmacos album was awesome. I love that album. There's still stuff off of that I listened to. Yeah, but I would say that's a 1. He's kind of a recluse, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a 1.
Okay.
Go on.
And I'm assuming, and although we've been seeing members of his band, we've been seeing Zach announcing a festival of his own. We've seen that Blasco is now going back to Rob Zombie as well. I'm assuming that those two are probably still going to be there. I'm assuming that his backing band will probably be Tommy Clufetis on drums, Blasco on bass, and Zach on guitar.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's going to be, yeah. Will we see John Sykes? No. 0.
So I think the biggest question out of anybody, I mean, Bob Daisley aside, I think Bob Daisley would be the other. I mean, just for us music nerds, not so much for the casual fan, but I think the big get that a lot of people would really, really, really dig would be Jakey Lee. What do you think? Probability 1 to 5.
I think I'm not sure whether he's going to be asked, but if he was asked, I think that he probably would play, seeing as it's his farewell. So we're looking at maybe a 3/4.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Jake has said that when Gus came into the band, he was asked to join, and he asked just to not get paid, but to be recognized for his writing contribution for Bark at the Moon. And with the last Red Dragon Cartel, Brad, that's just tomfoolery now. You're being too cavalier on us. With the last Red Dragon Cartel tour, he flat out said, I'm no longer going to play any Ozzy material unless it's with Ozzy.
Right, yeah.
So does that make Jake say, you know what, screw it. I don't care about I don't care about that anymore. I just want to do these last 2 shows with Ozzy. I want to go out there. I want to play Bark at the Moon. I want to play Shot in the Dark or whatever else they could possibly play from that era. You know, those
Mm.
are the 2 big hits, 2 big staples, so I'm assuming it would be those. Um,
Yeah, it'd be great if there's a selection of guests on each show, and yeah, that would make it a big thing. And don't forget that Ozzy's not going to be able to sing a lot of songs himself and be up there on his own. He's going to need a fair few soloists up there who are going to be happy to take over and play and you know fill in a little bit for him. So I think definitely going to be some extensive at least 2 or 3 guitar solo slots, and there's going to be a drum solo.
so here is my setup for this. And I do want to say hello to Sean, who I don't think I mentioned. He is in here as well. This is what I would do, and I know this is never going to happen, but I would have Red Dragon Cartel play.
Mm,
I would have Black Label Society play.
yeah,
I would have Ozzy solo come out and do some songs, and I would close the night with Sabbath.
I think that is exactly what will happen. Because it's so perfect. You're thinking along the exact same lines as everyone should be thinking.
Right.
It's perfect. Yeah.
You get Sabbath to do Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs.
Yeah.
You get Sabbath to do 5 songs tops. What else can we throw in there? Sweet Leaf.
Yeah, that's all you need, just a few, and yeah, and you just know as well, Crazy Train will be on, the backdrop will be Randy Rhoads shown all the time. It'll
Yeah.
be, if they're thinking about it the right way, they could make this a really good show. It'd be show of the year, really.
Yeah. And at the end of the night, what's going to close the show actually is going to be the Ozzy Avatar. And they will say coming in 2 years, we're still working on it.
Yeah, it's possible. And you'll all walk out with a free bat.
There you go. Other thing that you wanted to discuss. Looks like Testament all of a sudden are in a rush to release a new album.
Hmm.
If you checked out my latest episode 145 of the Victor M. Ruiz podcast, I read the story or read the excerpts of the interview that Chuck Billy did recently, where he says that they want to have the album out or at least done by July. They're going to be touring Europe after that with Anthrax and Death Angel, if I'm not mistaken. Or am I? No, Creator.
Creator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They've been waiting 6 years since the other album, or has it been less than that?
Yeah, it seems less. Can't remember now.
But here's the other odd thing that kind of, there's 2 things that are kind of catching me off guard here. One, Titans of Creation, it's going to be 4 years. So
okay.
yeah, they seem to go every 4 years. They've gone since Formation of Damnation, 2008, Dark Roots of Earth, 2012, Brotherhood of the Snake, 2016, Titans of Creation, 2020. But so here's the thing that's kind of throwing me off here. So they released First Strike Still Deadly in 2001, which is essentially all the stuff off of their first 2 albums. When I had Chuck Billy on, he mentioned that they didn't like the production on those first 2 albums. So they went back in and recorded them to sound like they did at that time, how they were playing them at that time. They're now going to go in and re-record those 2 albums for Nuclear Blast. So it will essentially be the 3rd time they're recording some of these songs. And this is something that we've discussed within the last few months. This is a
Mm,
topic that you've brought up several times.
mm,
But I don't know, it just seems like they're gonna be flooding the market with material. And is this something that the label wants because that was released on Megaforce and Atlantic, and Nuclear Blast kinda doesn't have the licensing for that? Is that why they wanna do that? Um, I can't imagine a lot of diehards running out and picking that up. I don't know, I could be wrong, but they're gonna be releasing that plus the new album. Doesn't that kind of dilute the market for what people are gonna be spending on Testament this year? Or is it something where they're saying, "You know what? Fuck it. This is only gonna be for streaming purposes. People are gonna love this on streaming." Some of these, and I don't know, maybe the songs aren't available on streaming. Maybe First Strike Still Deadly isn't available on streaming, and that's why they're doing this so that
mm,
Nuclear Blast has it and they'll maintain it on the streaming services. I'm not
mm.
sure. I mean, I'm not sure what the ins and outs are about this, but what do you think about both of those items?
Yeah, well, I think re-recording stuff is useful if, first of all, if you haven't got copies of them, or secondly, if you thought that the originals were great songs but they weren't very well produced. You
Right.
know, I bought the three Bonfire albums that were re-recorded, and I think they're fantastic. You know, they've got a great sound, great energy, and I didn't get them the first time round. Now, with the Testament album, I've got it on CD, the first album, but I really do want that reproduced, redone by the band now, because I think that that could be an absolute killer album if they really get it right with the production. So, and I'm going to think about buying a physical copy of it because of that, obviously vinyl. But there will be a lot of people out there, like you say, will want to download stuff, and if they can't get a good sounding copy, then it'd be great to download that because it's not going to cost someone that much to do it. And like you say, maybe the band themselves have been asked to do it, or they're sort of, they have to do it. They're contractually obliged to do it. So there's all that sort of issue, in the background going on. Whether they're flooding the market, with a new album and old albums, well, a lot of bands kind of flooding the market at the moment anyway, because they know there's a lot of people out there who want to buy stuff, want to listen to stuff. There's quite a renaissance with metal and rock, and it's up to the listener really what you want to buy. You're going to buy your favorite band and your favorite albums. Coming on to the new album, they seem to be sort of rushing their way through it a little bit because I heard that they want to find a bit of a space to do some recording and get the songs in the right way they want them. And I felt that the last album had 5 songs on that were absolute killer, and there were 4 or 5 on there that I thought were terrible. They're very boring. So they're a bit like that Testament. I think they can come out with killer tunes, but they can also come out with stuff that you just think, I don't really want to listen to that again. It's just, thrash for thrash sake without going anywhere. There's no direction. So sometimes they just need to think about it, put the best stuff out and even just release a smaller album. They don't need to release an album that's got, 12, 13 tracks on or whatever. Just release an album with 7 tracks on and just put out the very best.
Yeah, I think out of the albums since Alex Skolnick has come back, I should say, Titans of Creation is probably my least favorite.
Mm,
Formation of Damnation, I listened to a lot.
mm,
And for the subsequent years after that, Dark Roots of the Earth, which I actually have behind me over
mm.
here,
That's my favorite.
hard to see. It's got some really good stuff on it. Even Brotherhood of the Snake has stuff that I listen to a lot. Those 3 albums I've listened to a ton. So
Mm,
when Titans of Creation came out, the trying to think of what the leadoff single was. Children of the Next Level. I was like, "Oh wow,
mm,
yeah, they're back."
mm,
But I think Dream Deceiver's a really good song off of that.
mm.
Ishtar's Gate is really good, but similar to what you're saying, I think that it's probably out of all of them, possibly the the one that caught my attention the least. How about that?
Mm. I think the problem is that Peterson does most of the songwriting, doesn't he? All the sort of guitar stuff,
Yeah.
and he is an absolute heavy metal nerd. He is. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's one of these guys who will just sit he's probably a guy in his teenage who sat in his bedroom through it, all day, all night, just playing a guitar. And he doesn't really sort of distance himself from what he's doing. He's absolutely fantastic at playing, and he comes up with fantastic stuff. But sometimes you just need someone just to shake him a little bit and say, that song that you've done there is unbelievably good. That song, nah, it's stick it in the bin and do another one. And that's the
Right.
problem with Testament, I find sometimes. But going back to the original thing, if they want to re-record the first couple of albums, yeah, go ahead and do it as well at the same time. Because how long are these bands going to be going on for? This is the thing that Brad mentions a lot. I mean, Testament are a bit younger, but how long do they want to do it for? They're doing an album every 4 years, so it's a long time before it's only a couple of albums, and you've almost got another decade down the line.
Yeah, you're saying they're a little younger, but I don't know how much.
Something like that, yeah. Maybe what, the 50s, maybe coming up to 60.
I'm thinking that they're all close to 60. Eric Peterson is 59.
Yeah. So, another couple of albums, and he's going to be 69, isn't he? Yeah, clocking on 70. I mean, who wants to thrash at 70?
Chuck Billy's 61.
Yeah. And it's not just wanting to thrash; it's being able to do it. It's a quite a skill to be able to do when you're young. Never mind when you're approaching old age.
Alex Skolnick is 55. Steve DiGiorgio is 56. Their new drummer, I think, is in his 30s. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So cool. Great discussion tonight. Do want to thank Jeremy for coming on once again. I do want to thank Brad and Tony and Sean for joining us in the chat. I want to thank anyone who's checking out the replay of this, whether it's just the audio or the video version. Please go to signalsfrommars.com. Follow us on any of these platforms where the show is broadcasted, either audio or video. Share it with your friends. Like it. Join us in Patreon. Whatever you can do is greatly appreciated. On that note, we will end tonight's show, and we will see you next time right here on Signals from Mars. See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.